Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Jonathan Eads. I'm the head of school. I want to thank all of you for coming to the 7th installment of the McMillan Character Education Speaker Series. I know we are all very excited to welcome Rudy Tomjanovich to Kinkaid tonight. First, I want to thank the Hensher family, Betty and John, and their children, Trent and Garrett, for their generous support of this special speaker series. Trent, a 1999 graduate of Kinkaid, was a three-sport star athlete here and earned a football scholarship to SMU and played all 4 years. Garrett attended 9th grade here at Kinkaid before moving with his family to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and completing high school at Holland Hall. He is watching via live stream tonight from his home in Chicago, along with his wife, Keely, and their two children, Cassidy and Kennedy. Because of their great interest in athletics and character development, this speaker series has a special meaning for the Hensher family. Would the Henshers please stand so that we can thank you for this opportunity tonight? In 2010, the Henshers wanted to name the series after someone at Kinkaid who left a definite mark on their family, and they had a very special person in mind. It took no convincing for the school leadership to agree with the Henshers' suggestion to name the series in honor of Kinkaid coach Gary McMillan. As many of you know, Coach Mack is something of a legend here at Kinkaid. Beginning his career at Kinkaid in 1974, he taught history and coached football. When he officially retired from Kinkaid in 2007, he had coached almost every sport Kinkaid offers, winning 16 SPC titles along the way. Coach Mack embodies all the qualities the Henshers hoped this series would be about: integrity, enthusiasm, love of youth, and love for Kinkaid. Coach Mack regrets that he cannot be present with us tonight, but we are so pleased that his son Lance, a 1989 graduate of Kinkaid, is here with us tonight. And Lance, may I ask you to stand so that we can welcome you and thank you for being here on your family's behalf. Thank you, Lance, and please give your dad our best from the community. We've had 6 previous speakers in this series, beginning with Joe Ehrman in 2005. Joe was an all-star professional football player who, after retirement, devoted his life to promoting character in our youth. Pat Williams, Senior Vice President of the Orlando Magic, was the second speaker in 2007. Former SMU football star Jerry Levias was the first African-American athlete to earn a football scholarship in the Southwest Conference, and he was the speaker in 2010. The speaker in 2012 was Hall of Fame high school basketball coach Bob Hurley, who was known for his team's great success. St. Anthony's won 26 state championships under his leadership, but as importantly for how he developed young men. In 2014, Kinkaid welcomed Marion Jones, former Olympic and world champion track and field athlete and author of the book On the Right Track, as our speaker. Marion's book tells the candid story of how she faced the consequences of her actions and the importance of taking responsibility for your mistakes and turning a wrong into a right. And then most recently, in 2017, with all apologies to our good Aggie friends, Kinkaid welcomed Mack Brown, former head coach for the University of Texas Longhorns for 16 seasons. Coach Brown led the Longhorns to victories in both the Big 12 championship and won a national championship in 2005. Following his retirement from UT in 2013, he spent several years at ESPN as a commentator before returning to the coaching ranks in 2019 at the University of North Carolina. We're very pleased to have a truly special guest who has generously agreed to serve as our MC tonight, Matt Musil, the weekend sports anchor and sports reporter for KHOU 11 News here in Houston. Matt has been with KHOU since 1980. He graduated from K-State University with a major in radio, TV journalism, and a minor in coaching. He played a number of sports growing up and played baseball up to the semi-professional level until turning his attention full-time to television. Matt is involved in numerous local charities, including his own Matt Musil All-Star Golf Classic, which has raised over $3 million for Houston area charities over the last 29 years. Thank you for that, Matt. Before we get to the program, I ask that you please silence your cell phones and please refrain from using any recording devices for this evening's presentation. We will share our YouTube link for this program in the next few days so that you can enjoy the evening again. And now, let's turn our attention to our distinguished guest. We are so pleased that our guest of honor tonight is Rudy Tomjanovich. As we all well know here in Houston, he was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in May this year, and I hope you enjoyed watching his Hall of Fame acceptance speech as you entered the auditorium tonight. I would now like to take us down memory lane with a short video about the greatness of Rudy Tomjanovich's legendary career. Enjoy.
Let's turn to Rudy T. Obviously, each is special, but I also think let's let him have his moment. Let the crowd express their appreciation for him. I think it's fair to say that this year's team is a better basketball team than last year's. Why?
Well, I can't take anything away from last year. That was special. This is a new team, and no one has ever done what this team's done. Come from the 6th seed, down in series. We won 9 road games, and we had non-believers all along the way. I have one thing to say to those non-believers. Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Kinkaid community, let's welcome Rudy Tomjanovich and Matt Musil. Welcome.
Thanks, Jonathan. You're pretty good. Who wrote your material leading it?
Well, unfortunately, I did most of it.
Oh man, hey, it's great to see you folks out here tonight, and hopefully you'll enjoy this little fireside chat with one of the best basketball minds ever, Rudy Tomjanovich. This guy is such a great person. I first met him when I came to town. Jonathan said I came in 1980, which I did. Happened to be Rudy's final season. He's going to 80 and 81. It happened to be a magical season. These guys finished like 500 in the regular season and go to the NBA Finals. It was just incredible. And that was an incredible ride under head coach Del Harris. And I've told Rudy this before. We all have memories of different things. Calvin getting jumped by some thugs outside of the hotel and getting in a fist fight. Thomas Henderson getting in a fight in Boston. And I have this vivid memory because I was doing live reports back to Houston, and my producer said, hey, we've lost your tape for that 3-minute segment. You got to fill some time. Can you just get a live interview or something? And the Rockets, this is the NBA Finals, right? The Rockets are in a layup line, and they're shooting layups. I'm like, hey, Rudy, hey, can you do a live interview with me? If you can just think of the NBA Finals, how it is right now. It's so controlled. And Rudy's like, he shoots and says, yeah, what time? What time? Well, we got about 5 minutes away. And Rudy comes over, does the live interview, and that's just the kind of person he is. I mean, he wanted to concentrate on the game too, but he took a moment out to hang with me a little bit and talk to the folks back in Houston. I'll never forget that. Rudy, get us started. A lot of the folks sitting here, I see some my age, but the younger fans remember you as the coach, and maybe the coach only. But Rudy was a tremendous basketball player. I mean, he was an NBA All-Star. He was an All-American in college. Why basketball? Hamtramck, Michigan, and that was right in the heart of Detroit. Tell me what. You're big. Why didn't you play football? What was going on? Why basketball?
Okay, well, first of all, let me just say I am honored to be here and meeting John and Betty and the wonderful job they do, crusading this beautiful facility in this school. Very impressed. And I've seen the people who have spoke here, and I feel honored to be on that list. So we can go back to, I grew up in a city that was 1 square mile that is located in the middle of Detroit. And it was a Polish town, Hamtramck, Michigan. And I was very blessed to be born in that city because of its makeup. Well, first of all, we didn't have any money. I was poor. We were on welfare. My father was in and out of work. Very loving family. I was, I think, an average kid, but very shy. Both of my parents were extremely shy and not well educated. My father went to the 2nd grade. My mother went to the 6th grade.
Wow.
And I don't know how they got out of school and how that happened, but that's the way it is.
They probably had to work.
Maybe, I don't know. But the unbelievable thing is my mother's, in fact, when she wrote a letter, her penmanship was immaculate. It was beautiful. And the way she phrased words, I couldn't believe she could do that on that little education. But, and she was, if you were thinking of, think Edith Bunker, but way nicer. And yeah. And we had no money, but she would save up a little bit and she would buy me used basketball magazines that I would just devour and read. And I had a love for the game. But there was something else going on at that time. We had, in that small city, we had a great recreation department. And over at the public park there, we had a soccer or a tennis coach that tutored a girl 15 years old to go to Wimbledon. And her name was Peaches Barkowitz. Peaches Barkowitz. And she was, Polish. And then we had a Little League team that won the national world championship in 1959. And on that team was a guy named Art Pinky Darris. So we had Peaches and Pinky. And my cousin was on that team. He was a second baseman. He was best friends with Pinky, and I used to eat lunch with them when I was a freshman and they were juniors. And Pinky was so fast that you could barely see the ball. If you got a foul tip, I can't remember if we didn't do high fives or what the heck we did back in those days, but if you got a foul tip, you were going to your team. I got a piece of that one, And he was so strong, he would hit the ball, which would be like a fly to left field, not really hit it as much as he could, and it was a home run. He was just that strong. So I grew up playing baseball, and I was an all-star. I was a pitcher, first baseman, outfielder, and I was good, So my cousin, that kid I was telling you about, Mark, his dad was a fantastic mentor, and he exposed me to every sport, even soccer back then. And it wasn't like they had the big leagues, or we hadn't seen that, but in Detroit, they had a gigantic field, and the ethnic immigrants, I guess, would go there and play soccer, and we would go and do that too. But
I'm guessing you're a goalkeeper with your height. You're a goalkeeper.
I was just a skinny little runt back then, no. So I played baseball, but this is what my uncle did. He said, I've got to tell you the reality of your situation. If you're not going to be able to go to college because your family can't afford it. It said you're going to have to keep your grades up and excel at a sport, and then you might get a chance to get an education. And I was a good student. I really worked. I worked hard at it. It wasn't that I had superb intelligence. It's just I worked hard, and I made the honor roll, and it was important to me, and I put pressure on myself. So anyway, I was on the basketball team in junior high, but I never got in the game. I sat on the bench the whole year, and I did play against the teachers, and I got the Mr. Fulton, the French teacher, I got him isolated one time, and I thought I was going to pull a good move on him and shot it up there, shot an air ball. So that was my junior high career. So anyway, the baseball was not going good. I went to the Pony League, and I got a new coach. And this guy was like a Don Rickles type guy. He was an insult guy, and
just what you need.
Just what I needed as a budding baseball player. And for some reason, he liked to rip into me, and and it soured me on baseball. So I went to my uncle, and he had put up the money for my glove and my spikes, and I said, I don't think I want to play baseball anymore. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I don't love the game, and I got this coach. He said, you can't quit. You signed up, you don't quit. And I was disappointed. I went back and I tried. So a week later, I don't even get into the game, and we have a post-game talk with the coach.
Right.
And he even insults me when I don't play. I was coaching third base or something, and he made some kind of remark. Well, anyway, I didn't know that my uncle was there. He overheard the whole deal, and he called up to me on my walk back home, and he said, you don't have to put up with that. So I'll get this changed and get you on another team. And I said, I really don't love it. I said, I know I'm pretty good, but I don't love baseball. And when you're a kid and you're looking for rain clouds, you're hoping rain comes in so you don't have to go to the park, That's no fun. So anyway, he says, but Rudy, we had that agreement, you were going to follow that plan. And I says, I'm going to still do it. And he says, you are? What are you going to play? I says, basketball. And well, he knew what my career was. I never got in the game. He says, you were an all-star in baseball, and you want to play basketball? I says, yeah. I says, I love it. And he just looked at me like, okay, and getting that burden off of me to tell him that and feel that freedom. The basketball court in our city was about a mile away. I was so excited. I just took off running, so excited that I got that other stuff off, that baseball out of my system, and I was going to start this new thing. So the next year I go to high school, I'm going to try out for the freshman team, and all my buddies are trying out. a couple days before the big cut, one of my buddies comes up to me and says, I'm in the coach's home room and I saw his list. You're not on the list. I said, were you on the list? He says, yeah. I says, I'm better than you, man. Come on. And, well, the coach was a ex-linebacker from the University of Michigan. So he was just taking that job to make some extra money. He didn't know anything about basketball. So, and I could see these guys, you know, so before he could announce the cut, I challenged him to a game of one-on-one.
The coach.
The coach.
Okay, let's go one-on-one.
Yeah. And you have to understand, that was not my personality. I wasn't that kind of a kid.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're shy.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I mean, I was desperate.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what was ahead for me, but these other buddies of mine, if they're going to be on the team, you know, I should be on that team. So every time I bounce the ball, he's a linebacker. He thinks it's like a fumble. So he just runs and just knocks me down, and, you know, and he's breathing all crazy and he can't shoot, you know. So I'm sort of just letting him lunge and jumping over him, and I won the game, and he gave me a uniform.
And you were, of course, you got better and better. And then that got you, how far did you go in the playoffs your senior year? You graduated?
Yeah, we did not. We got upset my senior year. And, you know, I was very lucky. I've read some books about different people, how they got into different areas, different professions, like, Microsoft. He was at a place that had the only computer in the country or whatever, and he got to go there. Well,
Bill Gates.
yeah. Well, I was lucky that in my town, there was a basketball court, well, 5 courts, and 2 of them on the end had the L-shaped bracket where when you went in, you didn't hit the pole.
Oh, okay.
And playing in inner city basketball, it's very physical, and that's like being in the NBA when you have that thing.
Yeah.
So everybody in the city would come to this little junior high playground, and you know, I started like on the minor leagues down a couple baskets, but some of the Pistons came there, college All-Americans, and I would move up once in a while. Hey, we need a player over here. Yeah, why don't you come and join? So the day that I played with the big boys on the good basket, when everybody went home, I just sat there like I had been in Madison Square Garden at this little gym. And that's the kind of passion I had for that sport. Also, at that time, like I said, I was poor. We were really poor. Everything in our house came from the alleys of Hamtramck. My father was a sanitation worker, and if he saw something good, he'd say, Rudy,
pick it up.
He said, Rudy, we got a job to do, you know, and we'd pick it up and bring it home. Well, I had this ugly little bed that was sort of painted pink, and it was, and I wrote in the headboard of it, I love basketball. And I would go to sleep dreaming about basketball and hold on to this thing. And what the crazy thing is, that summer, I grew like 4 inches. I just watched my pants just go right up, you know. And I went from being a little skinny guy who shot outside to a big skinny guy who played inside, you know, and that's sort of when it happened for me.
Oh man, that's and then you wound up at Michigan.
University.
Got the scholarship, and that was the whole point.
Absolutely.
And you were telling me earlier your first experience coming to Houston. Can you
Oh, yeah.
share that?
Oh, yeah. So my sophomore year, we played against Alvin Hayes and that great team they had that played UCLA, and they beat us so soundly, and they shut me down and beat me up that I was really humiliated after the game and disappointed that we couldn't do better. And as I was walking off the court, a little chubby guy with a cigar said, "Hey, good game, kid." And I thought he was just being sarcastic. What the hell are you talking about, And didn't take losing very well. So the next day in the airport, some of the guys were talking. I said, "Do you know that Red Auerbach, the general manager of the Boston Celtics, was at the game?" And oh no. And sure enough, it was him.
And you told him that you get out of my face. I want to go back to the baseball coach. Bum Phillips told me one time the reason the way he coached the way he did and didn't talk down to his players is because he had a drill sergeant in the Marines that was so damn mean all the time. That just doesn't make sense. If you're going to be mean to me, if you want me to do something, be nice to me. And that's kind of how he coached. Going back to that coach in baseball, you were always known as a player's coach. Is that kind of where that started the thinking for you?
Yeah, that wasn't it. When I got the job, I talked to Carol Dawson a lot. He was a guy who wanted to be a coach. He was a coach at Baylor for 14 years, and he studied the game. I was a player, but I loved the game, and I studied the game. But after I decided to take that job, I would just spend hours with him, and we would just talk. And he said, "The number one thing you have to do is you have to be real. You can't try to be somebody else." Now, I can't try to be a tough guy. I'm just not a tough guy. I'm a passionate guy, and it was just, it was just trial and error at the beginning. But I looked at my players at the positive in my players. And I got excited about knowing what this guy can do and what that guy could do, knowing all along that they have a lot of negatives too. But what I concentrated on is how can I use that and how can I create an environment where what he can do can help us. Like some coaches, they only have a set group of plays that they run every year, the same place, and then they try to get players to do those things. Well, some guys are not good in those settings, So what we did is we created things. Say a guy had a good left hand, and so we would do something where this side there was an area over here on his left hand where we got everybody looking over there. Now all of a sudden he could do that, and to me, I thought that's exactly what my job is. Try to recognize what they can do and then put it in a system where they could get to it.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to have freedom, but not chaos. So freedom, just like any kind of freedom, off the court or on the court, you can't have freedom unless there is some restriction on certain things. You have to have room to be free. So anyway, that was the big thing that I tried to get across. And then I read a book, and there were a series of them about the, I don't know if it was the 10-minute manager or hour manager or whatever. And it talked about how you interact with people instead of being a micromanager and not trusting your guys to do their job. Do it and tell them that you believe them in them. You know, it's like the assistant coaches, and that commitment or involvement equals commitment. So if they're involved in, I need your help, what do you think? This is your team too. And that's what really brought us together as a staff and as a family, you know, and it's rare that that happens, but I think that's was the reason for our success.
Oh my gosh, it was such a family atmosphere. Rudy and I were talking earlier. It was so much fun. The whole group. It was just a family atmosphere. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, just you guys would go to Canale's after the games and drink beer, eat pizza, and talk about what happened in the game and talk about what's coming up next. It was. I want to go back to your playing days, though. Man, you were an all-star multiple times. What was the highlight for you for your playing career? Because making the NBA Finals, that came late in your career.
Yeah.
But
I really, you know, we went to the finals my last year, but I really wasn't involved. I had been hurt, and Dale Harris went with a different team. We went with the Water Buffalo team. We had two gigantic
Billy Paultz
and Moses Malone, and you know, I learned it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I mean, I hated it. I absolutely hated not playing, but I learned from that experience that Dale Harris believed that those guys could play a certain tempo, which was slow. And here we are playing the Showtime Lakers, and we slowed them so down that it broke their rhythm. I remember watching Magic Johnson, where you would see that smile on his face when everything was going good. All of a sudden, the smile was gone.
he was tensed up.
And they couldn't run, and it was a slow-down game. And that was pretty amazing.
To knock them off, best 2 out of 3.
Only 2 out of 3.
That helped you out too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then that whole team rallied. I mean, and the city was behind you. That was fun to watch. I want to talk a little bit about. You folks have heard of Calvin Murphy, right? He's a real low-key kind of guy. Well, Murph and Rudy T had some adventures. Roommates.
We did. So we're so different. We're so different. And so it all started in Atlanta. We had like 3 or 4 days off. In Atlanta's, the Marriott over there was more like a motel because they had the outdoor hallway, you know, out on the porch or whatever. And
Veranda.
yeah, so I'm going to go see a movie in the afternoon. And I passed Calvin's room, and all of a sudden this guy comes flying out of his room in his underwear. And Rudy, where you going? Where you going, man? I says, Murph, what the heck's wrong with you? He said, I got to talk to you. Where you going? I said, I'm going to the movies. Can I come? I says, yeah, take it easy. Put your clothes on and let's go. And he said, he said, I want to be a good player and all that stuff. I'm rooming with this guy from the Celtics, and it's the middle of the afternoon, and he won't let me watch cartoons. He says it's time to get our rest. He said, I'm rested. He was out last night. I'm rested. And he said, I'm sitting there, and I'm moving around in the bed, and he jumps up and he looks at me like, come on, keep it down over there. So he said, I had to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to do it with so much respect. He said, I got out, I picked the covers up gently, I stepped out, I tiptoed to the bathroom. I had to go number one. I'm standing there. Oh, this is good. All of a sudden he turns and there's his roommate. Murph, you're a horrible roommate. He says, what? He says, I tiptoed. He says, you don't pee in the middle of the bowl. You pee on the side where it doesn't make noise. So he says, you gotta get me out of there.
Oh my gosh. So then you guys, was it after that meeting in Atlanta, you asked the...
He went in and asked the coach if they could switch roommates. And his roommate was really mad. He's told the coach, I almost had the guy trained, you know. He wasn't even close
Who
to
was
training.
your head coach?
Alex Hannum was the head coach at the time.
So I know this one story. I think you guys were in Boston. But you know, Murph grew up in Connecticut. I think it was because you were close to, and the family came to visit.
Yeah, that was it.
And then it wound up, the whole family.
In the middle of the night, they just happened to infest your room, and they're sleeping on the floor. They're sleeping, you know, everywhere. In fact, the biggest one of them all, Aunt Frida, was in the bed with me.
And Frida was in the bed with you.
Yeah. And, yeah, it was a shock. It was a shock.
Oh my gosh. Calvin's so funny. He loves you so much.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have been brothers for
Yeah.
such a long time.
Yep.
Oh,
We've
my
been
God.
through a lot of things. It was great that he was there at the Hall of Fame thing. That was wonderful. And a lot of people talked about his outfit he had there because he had a whole bunch of stuff here. That was the conservative outfit. His family told him, don't you go over there and mess that thing up for Rudy. You put on something boring.
It was just a shame that it took so long. You contributed so much to the sport of basketball. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad they finally recognized that. I want to go back to something that we had talked before about this, and you said it was really a learning moment for you. Some of you, if you haven't heard, Rudy got punched unprovoked in a fight. Well, it wasn't a fight. You weren't in a fight.
Yeah.
You were over to protect your teammate. And the guy's name is Kermit Washington, who Rudy and I were talking earlier. I remember interviewing him. We were up in Portland for a playoff series, and Kermit had a radio show up there. But this was such a tough time for you. Can you just, I don't want to relive everything. It's probably a painful thing, but it was something that...
Yeah, there were some interesting things that happened in that that whole situation. So first of all, our coach at the time, I believe, was Dale Harris. He put in a new offense. I loved this offense so much. It made it so hard for a big player to stay with me because I would go inside, outside, and all that. And I was just in the flow. Everything was going good. And I can't tell you how excited I was about that. So I think I had 21 points at halftime, and we come out the second half. And that's when the incident started. Kermit, who was guarding me, was involved in a rebound on the other side of the basket, and I guess our guy got it, and yeah, we were on the fast break. So Kermit grabbed our center's shorts when he was running down the court, and the center, which is sort of a habit, if somebody does that to you, you sort of
Slap him what?
you knock his hand off, but when he did this, I think his elbow hit him. So Kermit just started attacking him, and when I turned around, Jabbar was holding Kevin, who was a 7-footer too, and trying to get him away from Kermit and to stop the fight. Well, everybody in the arena ran up on the situation. I just happened to take the wrong route. I came here, which was on his backside, and all of a sudden he saw somebody coming and he just boomed and hit me right there. And I don't even remember that happening, you know.
You've just seen the video afterwards.
Oh, I saw it. So, are you kidding? So many times. So, but I hadn't, I'll tell you this story about the other stuff. So I hit the floor. First guy I see, Walter Matthau. He's in the front row, you know, and he's a funny looking guy, and he had that look on his face like, ugh. And
He had a big nose.
yeah, and then I'm getting up, and then I see Jerry West, and Jerry West looked like he was nauseated. And I was like, what the hell? What's going on? You know, then I look down, I'm shooting blood out. So the trainer gives me a towel, and I just said, hey, let's go. Just, you know, first I say, what happened? He says, Kermit hit you. I said, Kermit hit me? I said, I wasn't even in that thing. He said, no, he hit you. And I was like, that's crazy. You know, so I just said, hey, listen, just give me some Kleenex. We'll put it in there. I said, I got it going, man. I got to stay out here. You know, so now this is something that has to do with another person. I used to run a basketball camp here with a guy named Sam Jones, wonderful human being. And we had a little guy named Bud who went to the basketball camp. And Bud was very shy and didn't really get along with people. But when he went to our basketball camp, he wound up leading 300 kids in calisthenics in front of the whole thing. And that whole experience changed his life. And he was at that game, and I saw him. And I saw him before the game. So as I was walking out of the arena, he was up here right on the aisle. Mm-hmm. So as I'm walking out, I look up at Bud, and I'm like shaking my head. And the guy behind him is drunk. And he is sort of leaning over the kid, pushing him against the railing, and said, he should have knocked your head off. And blah, blah, blah. You know how fans can get crazy.
Right.
So I'm like, oh my God, that's got to be so tough on that kid, you know. Mm-hmm. So then I go into the hallway, and here's Kermit. He's still pacing because he's mad that he's thrown out of the game because he feels he's been attacked, you know. And then I gave him a few choice words and say, why'd you sucker punch me? I didn't, you know. And the police came, and but my blood pressure went up at that time, and I could feel this bitterness in my mouth. And so I'm just saying, okay, they got it. Let's go. Let's get this thing. Let's get back out on that court. So I'm in a little room back there, and the trainer says, open your mouth. So I opened my mouth, and my teeth were still touching. So I opened my mouth, and I feel my teeth touching. I said, this doesn't make sense. Why are my teeth touching? And I opened my mouth. And I said, oh yeah, it's probably cats or, you know, bridges. Then I started thinking, wait a minute, I don't have bridges on the top. And then it started hitting me, well, something's wrong here. So within minutes, they said, we got to get you to the hospital. Boom, I'm in the ambulance all of a sudden, and then my face just closed up. It swole up so much that my eyes, I couldn't see. They was just all puffed up. So anyway, the doctor comes in and he tells me, you know, I'm the guy they call when they go through the windshield or when somebody gets hit with a baseball bat. You're in danger, and there's a chance you might not make it. You know, and he says you have to go to intensive care, and 48 hours. Hopefully that will seal. You know that what it was spinal fluid, that bitterness.
That's what you tasted?
That's what I tasted. So there was a crack in the cradle of where my brain was, and it was coming through. So, you know, it's a scary time. Mm-hmm. Now, what was crazy about it is I'm in intensive care. In the cubicle next to me was a little baby that was in a coma. And I could hear the mother begging the baby to get up and praying for the baby. So I prayed for the baby to make a recovery and all that. And the crazy thing is that the baby didn't make it, you know, and so a priest came to me. And a priest came to me and said, I'm here to pray with you. And I said, I'm sorry, but I have my own relationship with God. And I'll do that, but thank you very much. But the truth of the matter is I didn't have a relationship with God, is that I thought if I asked God, he'd say, why are you coming to me now? Where have you been? You know, that was my attitude at that time. And it's a terrible feeling when you have that bankruptcy, that spiritual bankruptcy that, you know, because there was at one time, I actually preached that there was no God. You know, I said it is a man-made concept to deal with this terrible situation we're in living, you know, which was really backward. And I didn't come out of that till like 30 years later when I was in treatment, and you have to get a spiritual, to get out of your addiction, you have to have a spiritual foundation. Mm-hmm. And finally, the pain of being in so much stuff with the addiction that I was so desperate that I finally did ask God to help me. And he did. And he's a part of my life now.
No,
so
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. That incident with Kermit Washington, though, you learned some things going through that. You told me before that.
Yeah. So it was such a well-known incident that everybody had a view on it, and there were a lot of mad people, and there were people in Houston that wanted to do him harm, you know, and but I talked to some spiritual people, and they said the best thing for me to do was to forgive them. And understand, it's not that I condone what he did at all, but I did that to save me. Because if you live with resentment and ill feelings, excuse me, I've got the coughs here for a second. You know, you're killing yourself. You're actually killing yourself. So I had to do that, not to let him off the hook, to let me off the hook.
Yeah, did it for yourself. Who was, I mean, you got some great athletes. I think maybe I know who was most fun to coach. I don't know. Maybe I don't know the answer to this. But who was the toughest? Who gave you the most problems to?
I know everybody would think Max.
Mad Max, Vernon Maxwell, who was a fantastic guy. You know, he just took a turn that 95 season.
Yeah, Max was, so one game, you know, the coach has got to watch the game, and if guys get in foul trouble, you got to protect them, and you got to take them out of the game. So Max was doing okay, and he got one foul, you know, and then he committed another foul, and we didn't want him. He went back in the game and got another quick foul, so I took him out so he wouldn't be in foul trouble, and we'll go up the second half. This was the end of the first half. So at halftime, he goes into the shower, and he's going to take a shower. He's leaving. He says, I can't deal with all this yanking at me out and all that stuff. And a coach says, hey, Max, you got 3 fouls, man. He had to take you out of the game. Oh, get me a towel.
Oh my gosh, he was so much fun.
Yeah.
You don't win in '94 without Mad Max, right?
Absolutely. Well, I got another interesting thing right at halftime. So one of our reliable players, he was a role player, great shooter, Matt Bullard. I could always count on Matt. He's going to be in the right place, the right time. He might not be able to stop the guy, but he's going to, you know, just a smart player. So same kind of situation. He's just going in the game for the last minute of the first half. So we had a timeout. I said, Matt, get in there and take, what's his name? So I look out on the floor, and Matt, Bull looks dazed and confused out there. He's got a look on his face like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? You know, and, you know, he's not in the right places and all of the buzzer goes off and he's running into the locker room. I'm behind him. Oh, what the heck is going on? Hold on. You know, like, what the hell's wrong with him? He gets there and he gets a pen out. Okay, I'm sorry, coach, I'm sorry. Well, what happened is a beautiful blonde girl behind the bench had signaled him the phone number, and he was out in the game trying to remember it. And the happy ending to this, they got married.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. So who was... That is awesome. That is awesome. I mean, the best player was Akeem, right? Give the folks a little insight into Akeem Olajuwon, how much fun that was to be around. But he was a strong-willed individual too.
Yeah, you know, Akeem, you would never think this if you knew him, but there were many games as a young pro that he got kicked out of the game for either hitting somebody,
Right.
and he's really a peaceful person, especially after he matured with his spiritual stuff.
Olden Polynice, I remember he worked him over, I think in college and in pros.
I'm gonna need some more water.
Got any more? Hey, Tom, can you, yeah. I just know, there was a lot of physicality. Here, we got a fresh bottle here. Look at this. Your personal assistant.
All right,
is
thank
here.
you so much.
Hey, Lisa, why don't you stand up and say hi to the folks?
This is my She's my better 6 7/8.
Yeah, more than a half. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. So you were saying about Green.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I had my job as an assistant coach at the time was when he got kicked out of the game, was to walk him back to the locker room and make sure he didn't get in more trouble. And usually it was just something real quick. And he said, I wasn't even that bad. It just happened. But what I got from him is, as he matured with his spiritual stuff, I did too. And, you know, I try to take spirituality in all the things I do, even in basketball, you know, where, you know, you don't have to be, you can be understanding. You can have differences of opinion, you know. And no, I was just lucky to have Akeem. And, you know, I'll say this, he was lucky to have me too, because we devised some things that made it easier for him to do things.
He just was, he was like an acrobat at times. Some of the stuff that he would do, you know, Ralph liked to think of himself, he could play point guard, but he couldn't. Clyde Drexler would say sometimes, well, if plays weren't working, we dump it into the big guy. Let's see what Akeem can do.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't that easy at all. Tom, shall we open it up for questions? Or I wanted to give everybody a chance to, if you have a question for Rudy T. This guy is such an iconic figure. My wife was turning cartwheels at home when she found out we were going to come to this thing tonight. I didn't really explain what it was all about, you know, but she was so excited. I'm sure a lot of you the same way, just to be in the presence of this iconic basketball figure. So has anybody got a question, just shoot your hand up and shout it out. You're going to have to shout, though.
Oh, thank you, Rudy. Huge fan. So if Jordan did retire, keeps him from less than 50 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists against the Bulls in the finals. Anybody on that team?
On that team, who gets it?
No, who keeps him down? I think we crushed the Bulls, right?
You know, everybody talks about that whole situation with Chicago. Well, when we got Charles Barkley, the first time we went to Phoenix, which is his hometown, he invited the coaches and the trainer over his house for a great steak dinner. And he had 2 surprise guests. One was Michael Jordan, the other was Tiger Woods. So it was one great night. I mean, it was really cool. And Michael admitted that we were the team they were concerned about. And the reason he gave is we can't stop Akeem. We have 3 centers. We're going to play them all. That's going to be 18 fouls they're going to use on them.
Yeah.
And he says, we can't do it. And the other thing is that I played for their coach, or not Phil Jackson, but the guy who devised their offense, Tex Winter. And I drilled our guys on not getting suckered on some of the plays they had. So we played them pretty honest, and then the games were close. But you know, we won most of them during that time. Well, I have an interesting story about him. My son was in junior high, and I guess what happens a lot with junior high girls, they started crank calling or calling the house. And so my oldest daughter, Nicole, says, I gotta talk to these girls, you know. So the next time the phone rang, she picked it up and says, you girls are, oh, excuse me. So Dad, it's for you. I said, who is it? He said, it's Michael Jordan. So Michael was out on the town, and he says, hey, Coach, I just wanted to call and let you know that I really like you and respect you, but we're going to kick your butt tomorrow. So I said, oh, thanks for the warning, you know. And anyway, it was interesting that he would call, but we did beat him.
Was, yeah. That's the thing, Mad Max, he would never back down.
Oh, Max loved it.
Oh my gosh. There's a question up there, if we can.
Rudy, this is Dr. Bruce Mosley. Welcome to Kinkaid.
All right, Doc. Thanks for getting those guys back out on that court.
My first year working with the team was our first championship year, and we had a little trade that got reneged and ended up working out really well. What do you remember about the Sean Elliott trade?
Oh, yeah. We did not have a general manager at the time. Les Alexander had fired Steve Patterson, and so I had to work the phones during that time, and we were in the market we had to get someone to take the load off of Akeem. We were going to him so much, we didn't have creative offensive players. They were good team players. So we thought Elliott had a little bit more, Sean Elliott. So we decide to make the trade, but he comes in and he has bad kidneys. And our doctor said, you know, can't guarantee that he's going to play 2 or 3 years. So we have to rescind the trade. Now, we're going to bring our players back, and they just been traded, which is that's like a divorce.
Exactly.
No, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, come on back. So who was it, Matt Bullard?
Matt Bullard and Robert Ory. So Robert Ory, I just looked at him, and I just sorry, man. He said, hey, I'm happy. It was cold up there in Detroit. I'm happy to be back. Now, Bull had a little bit different. Bull was mad. He thought that there was a place for him up there, and so it took him a while to get over that.
Yeah. What year was that? That was before the championships, right? That was 2 years before?
I think that was after. It was what? That was the first year?
Okay.
Yeah, we were lucky to get through that without a disaster, you know.
Because Robert Ory, man, he was huge for you guys.
Yeah.
He made so many big shots. There's one right here.
Well, the question was, who were the biggest rivals in the championship years? She mentioned Utah, and Utah was definitely one. And Utah was so tough. Their smallest guy was a tough guy, John Stockton. He would set these back picks on our big guys, and then Malone, strong and physical. And then they had Mark Eaton, God rest his soul, and he just passed away a couple of weeks ago, I think. He was 7'6", and Akeem would do all those dream shakes, and Eaton was just go and block.
He was so wide. He was just massive.
Yeah. So beating those guys makes those championship trophies so valuable because they were tough, they were good, they're Hall of Fame coaches and players, and then you got to go with San Antonio too. San Antonio, David Robinson, You know, people used to say, "Oh, he's not a real center. He plays piano, he plays golf, and he's not a physical player." But what they don't understand, he was so fast you couldn't stay in front of him, and he took the contact of getting hit. And for us to beat him the way that we did was amazing. And it, you know, goes to Akeem.
That MVP season of David's.
Yeah.
Akeem just schools him. Oh my gosh. Woo. The old Summit. That was a fun place, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Got time for a couple more. I'm told we got 3 minutes left. Bark them out.
Okay, so when I was growing up, a lot of what we didn't see, we got to hear it because Gene Peterson would describe these these basketball games that were just amazing, and everybody can remember somebody who sang, Rudy T, rat-a-tat off the back iron, and it was just one of those amazing, iconic things. And how was Gene Peterson? If you have any stories about him, what was he like? Because he was such a character, just an amazing basketball player.
Gino reminded me of Ted Knight on the Mary Tyler Moore. I loved him, and he was good. I'm trying to pick the right story. There was a time he sat right behind me and Carol Dawson on the bus. And Carol Dawson has got one of the best sense of humors out there. Very subtle, very country. Mm-hmm. So he knew that Gene was mad about not having a car, because in some organizations they get cars for the different people and all that. And Carol just did it just perfectly. So because we had some extra cars, because we had to drive the rookies, he said, so Gina could hear him, "Oh, the girls down at the office are so excited. Those cars that they had left over, they're getting to use them." And he came flying out of the seat, running, "God, I'll show them." And Carol had to tackle the guy before he went in and cussed out the general manager.
Rudy, can you imagine this skinny kid from the heart of Detroit, Hamtramck, is that right?
Yep.
Got an ick. He told me you got to put an ick right in his.
Yep.
Could bring so much happiness to a city. What was that like? I mean, this city never had a championship. I don't think anyone who was alive, old enough to know what was going on, went to bed that night. No one slept. What was that like to do that for a city?
Well, just let me tell you how out of the loop I was. I was into my team and those plays they're running, how we're going to try to neutralize that and all that. So whenever our video would go off, regular TV would come on. So I would see this footage of all this mob of people, and I'm like, where is it? Is that South America? What is that? I said, what the hell's going on? You know, is there like upheaval in the world? I said, no, that's Richmond Avenue. I said, those are our people? I had no idea, you know, and, you know, we were numb. I was numb for a long time, and it didn't hit me. I got out of town. We went to Charleston, South Carolina, and I remember coming in and putting the TV on, and they had that ad like on ESPN. see the world champion Houston Rockets on their way to this championship, and they had different angles, and it was like, oh my God, that's us. We're the champions. You know, and I knew all that, but it just finally hit me. And it's still sometimes I think it's like a dream.
The dream come true for all of us.
Yep.
I gotta play a video. If I have time for the video, can we play the video real quick?
Yes.
Got that?
Yeah. We'll make time. Do it.
See if we can play it.
An honor that big is something that I just don't have the kind of personality that would expect that. As a young boy, my dreams were to make it to the NBA, to be as good as I could. It was a very rare situation that somebody played for a team their whole career and then all of a sudden was an assistant coach for many years and then became the head coach. You get a job, you don't expect to inherit Akeem Olajuwon, a player with that kind of skill and character. Akeem was so good as a leader of our team. Those guys are very important to me. Without them in my life, it probably doesn't happen. I tried to mold what I was offering to fit what these special players had, their special skills. It's hard to win just one game. Sometimes when you really need a game, it's very difficult to get it done because so many things can go wrong. And you're playing against great players and great coaches. We weathered all those things coming at you. There were so many pivotal moments on our journey to winning those championships, and to get it done is just so special. I have such a warm feeling in my heart for the Houston fans. Talking about it, that electricity that it sent to our team, it helped us. This championship is Houston's championship. It isn't about one player, one coach. It's the whole community. It was so special. Houston Rockets fans, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being a part of our championships. We couldn't have done it without you. And I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rudy Tomjanovich.
Well, Matt and Rudy, what an absolute treat. And Matt, I loved your capstone comment and question there at the end about the happiness that Rudy T and the Rockets brought this city, and just watching everybody react to that. So on behalf of the Kinkaid community, man, thank you both for being here this evening. Let's thank them one more time.